Okay, cool. I don't think the Crowdcast one is working. Hopefully, people are joining the YouTube link. Um, but that's fine. We'll just go ahead and start it. If you missed it, if you're on the Crowdcast and it didn't work, just go ahead and watch the recap. It'll be. Am I muted?
I can hear you, Emily.
Same. Actually, now you're muted for me, at least. I have the same mic. I don't know why they used micro USB as the connectivity option. It's pretty finicky.
Okay, am I good?
Yes.
Yeah.
So the Crowdcast. Okay, cool. Let me send out the YouTube link to my guests so you guys can blast. Crowdcast is weird, but we're gonna go ahead and get started. That's okay. So it's been a hot second since Truffle has a community call, but that's because we've been doing some really super secret stuff that I'm really excited to kind of announce. So, Josh, do you want to take us away? Or actually, wait, let's start off with introducing everyone first. And then I'll kick everybody off except our highlighted speaker at the time and then bring you guys on one by one. So starting from the top, Nick, go ahead and you can popcorn to somebody else.
Hi, I'm Nick. I'm principal technologist for Truffle. I've been doing this a while. Looking forward to what we have to show today. Josh, why don't you pick it up next?
Cool. Hey, everyone. I'm Josh. I'm the lead product manager of Truffle. I've been here in two stages since 2017. I briefly worked at Near for like a year and a half, but I've been back here at Truffle since October. So really excited to show you what we've been cooking up. Kevin, how about you go next?
Cool. Yeah, thanks, Josh. Hey, everyone. Kevin Bluer, or Kevin B. Yeah, blockchain engineer, working across a bunch of different teams, different things, also for a while, similar to Nick. And over to David.
Oh, yeah, I guess it's me. I'm David.
That's the last.
Oh, thank you. I'm the Ganache lead. Been doing this for a while, almost 5 years now. So that's my thing. Emily, your turn.
Okay, cool. That's true. If you're joining for the first time, you might not know me. I am the person dealing with all the technical support issues that's having trouble right now. But my title is actually officially developer advocate for Truffle, but I actually spent my time between Truffle and then as well as Lineage, which is Consensus's new ZK EVM, which I think is pretty exciting that we live in-house together. A lot of opportunity for cool multi-chain stuff that we might be talking about later. Who knows? Stay for the full call to find out. So I'm going to kick everyone off except for our most important person at this current very moment. So goodbye, Kevin. Goodbye, Nick. Goodbye, David. Hello, Josh. Josh, please take it
Hello.
away.
I
know you
will.
are here. I wanted to bring you on to kind of talk about the past, present, future of Truffle.
Yeah, good stuff. I'm assuming I can share my screen. Cool. Yes, I can. Is it actually sharing?
No, I need to allow you to share it.
Cool.
Okay, cool. And I'm going
Nice.
to go hide myself so everyone can focus on you.
Cool. Hey, everybody. Like I introduced myself, Josh Quintel, lead product manager here at Truffle. Definitely a lot of exciting stuff to talk to you about. But like Emily said, I'm going to kind of go over a little bit of like the past, present, and future of Truffle. So Truffle up to this point, right? You've probably known us, though hopefully maybe some of you don't actually. You're going to be joining this first and foremost. So actually, let me just start by defining exactly like what the Truffle suite is, right? So you see like this Truffle, the Truffle suite, what is it, right? So Truffle's the name of like our overarching brand, right? But really we create a suite of developer tools, right? For creating smart contracts and dApps on top of Ethereum. So the big one you probably guessed is Truffle. And Truffle is a CLI tool that covers really the entire smart contract development lifecycle, right? From compiling those contracts down to bytecode, to deploying those contracts to a network, even on to debugging them, making calls to the network, things of that nature. So a number of useful tools in Truffle that we'll talk about later. Second one that you're probably familiar with is Ganache. So Ganache is a local development network. You can run it right on your laptop, but as opposed to something like spinning up Geth in development mode, Ganache has a number of useful features that are useful specifically for development. So as David likes to say, you can lie to the blockchain. So you can do things like instant state updates. You can imitate accounts. And of course, you can also fork networks, which is really a great companion to that account imitation. So something like forking mainnet would allow you to run a transaction against mainnet's state, right, without actually having to spend any real gas. So really great for analysis, integration tests, developing a DApp that actually is composable with like other protocols, right? Like something like DeFi Zap, or an aggregation type of DApp would be really useful for that use case. And then thirdly, kind of it's really just like an extension of Truffle, which I'll talk about, but I'd like to kind of mention it as a separate thing since you're encountering it in a different environment, but would be our VS Code extension. So VS Code extension allows you to use Truffle in a more graphical way. Since most of the functionality of the CLI is revealed in the UI of VS Code, so things like deploying contracts, debugging, etc., can be done right within VS Code if that's your preferred method of operating. So getting into a little bit more of like kind of where things are at this very moment for the tool suite, and then kind of where we're going in the future. One really great part of Truffle is how modular Truffle is. So I kind of mentioned already that there's this CLI tool, and that a lot of that functionality is also surfaced in VS Code, and a lot of that's possible because, like I mentioned, the modular nature of Truffle. So things like our codec, our debugger, these things can be used in various places. If you look at like Truffle's GitHub repo, you'll see it's a mono repo composed of all these packages. But really the big one that I'm going to want to highlight on this call is Truffle Dashboard in the case of Truffle. So Truffle Dashboard, really affords us this great opportunity to surface these tools within Truffle for a project that wasn't necessarily started with Truffle, right? Like I mentioned, Truffle CLI and the VS Code extension. Those things are both built on the assumption that you are using Truffle as your framework of choice, right? And in 2017 when I started, and Truffle was really the largest choice. There were other frameworks, Embark and and the like, but Truffle was definitely like the most popular one and largest at the time. We could kind of take that stuff for granted, right? It just made sense. But now, right, we have a thriving ecosystem. It's awesome, right? Ethereum's been doing well, right? And so now, there's Hard Hat, there's Foundry, and these tools have their own unique advantages, right? Foundry, Hard Hat has their nice plugin system. Foundry is super fast because it's developed with Rust. And so, we're pragmatic. We understand that, we make some best-in-class tools. There are some advantages to these other things. You should be able to combine those and use the best tool for the job, right? Providing value to the ecosystem is, our number one priority here. So Truffle Dashboard not only, like I said, surfaces those libraries, but it does so in a way that's framework agnostic. So I don't want to steal Nick's thunder during his demo, but we'll just say you'll definitely get to see some of that later. So the other exciting thing about Truffle Dashboard really is that it began life with this signature requests tab, right? Which is exactly what you're seeing right here. So it's been this sort of breakout hit for Truffle, like over the past couple months, because it really solved this specific but pressing need, which is juggling private keys, right? You need to deploy to an actual network. How are you going to do that? You can install HD wallet provider, you can put your key in some environment file, but really we don't want to have to like touch our private keys, right? Even have them on the clipboard. There's just tons of risks around all this, right? You could accidentally commit your private key to a repo, right? But how about we just sidestep all of that And that's what Truffle Dashboard allows you to do. So Truffle Dashboard will intercept the transaction coming from the CLI and actually surface it within the browser. So you'd see something akin to this card right here. In this example, we're deploying this auction contract. And I knew that because it's all decoded as well. So I brought up, the Truffle codec actually in that previous slide. That's getting used here to actually show a more human readable version of this transaction, so you know exactly what you're confirming. And so if you clicked this confirmation button, this would actually pop up MetaMask, and there you go. Now you're just signing with your browser wallet. You didn't have to juggle private keys. A popular use case for this, or one that people are at least very enthused about, is using their hardware wallets, right? Because any hardware wallet that integrates with MetaMask will just seamlessly work with this. It's a really great transaction approval experience, especially if you're working on a team and you have, like a special deployment account, that is tied to a hardware wallet, like in that example. And also just, for the insights that you get from this nicely decoded transaction. But this has a lot of potential, right, to expand out. Like I said, it has this great benefit of sitting on top of a lot of different projects. It's very easy to spin up, right? You just npx Truffle Dashboard, and you can start using it right away. And so we see the potential to expand this in a number of directions. And once again, I don't want to steal Nick's thunder, but kind of the first direction we're going with this is kind of integrating more of Truffle's tooling, and that begins with the debugger here. And kind of starting to think about the workflow, that you might encounter like using Truffle Dashboard, right? So you've created this transaction, you're signing it, maybe something goes wrong, maybe something doesn't, but you want to step through it with the debugger. That's going to be a lot easier to do by hitting this debug button right on the card, or if you have a transaction that you already know you want to inspect, you could just paste in the hash. But either way, you'll get a graphical debugger experience, and Nick's going to actually demo that later, so I'll let him cover more of that. But there's a million other areas this could expand into, right? And so for me as a product manager, it's like, we don't want to build the wrong thing, be all things to all people, right? And so the big thing that I'm looking at, and I'm going to totally hammer during this presentation, is that we really want feedback. So definitely anyone on this call who wants to follow up with me, I'll be providing some links and some ways to do that after this as well. But to just sort of give you some ideas, right? There are a ton of exciting possibilities here, right? So on top of the debugger, right, there are things like contract forms, right? Our codec powers actually a set of front-end components that we're working on called codec components. And those will allow us to create contract forms, kind of a la Remix. But now packaged with this, you get this nice workflow of produce the transaction via this form, sign it, debug it. You can do all of this like within Dashboard. So it's this great seamless experience. But we can go even further than that, right? Things like security tooling, right? Even just within the consensus umbrella, Diligence has a number of useful tools. Their Fuzzer, Mythex, things of that nature could be part of this. Extra insights around deployments, right? They're kind of a special type of transaction, right? Like we're looking at one here on this card, but they can get pretty thorny, right? You're linking contracts together. You may need to be initializing certain things. There may be unique insights that you want from a deployment that we could provide in here as well. And then kind of as a final thing, and I don't have that as the next slide. That's kind of a final thing. I encourage you to think even bigger than that. What's something that maybe you would want to build, right? I mean, this cries out for a plugin system, right? It has this, in that sense, it can function as, a tool aggregator, not just of tools for Truffle, but for anything, right? I could easily imagine Dune Analytics being a great plugin for this. Even the aforementioned security tooling from Diligence could be installed as a plugin, or maybe you want to use multiple fuzzing libraries. I know this is popular, right? So you could have Diligence fuzzing, and you could develop a plugin for Echidna. You could use the Foundry fuzzer, all of these things. And you also get the great benefit of being able to take some of your other favorite CLI tools and apply front ends to them, graphical front ends to them through Truffle Dashboard as well. So I think there's a ton of exciting possibilities there. I could just ramble on forever about possible plugins and workflows. But either way, that's where, I need your help in prioritizing these things, figuring out what your needs are, all that. So I've probably already reached out to many of you, but if I haven't, definitely reach out to me. Like I said, I'll talk more about that at the end. So this cute little now and later thing. I guess I kind of already talked a little bit about later, but let's break it down, I guess, a little bit more, because we also still haven't talked about Ganache as well. So yes, with Truffle, we talked about Truffle Dashboard. That's definitely a big part of our focus right now. I mentioned the debugger, which you'll see today, contract forms, and the codec components library that powers those. Notably, that will also be useful for you viewer, as a developer, to leverage our codec to more easily display decoded contract data in your dApps. So super cool stuff coming there as well. And then, yeah, of course, that plugin system that I hammered. That's definitely super cool thing. Definitely want a lot of suggestions there. So then Ganache, right? Ganache, super awesome tool, like I already mentioned. I should actually even riff a little bit more on it. So all that functionality I mentioned, right? The local DevNet, um, the ability to impersonate accounts, change state rapidly, take snapshots, all these types of things. Not only come in a CLI form, but also in a UI as well. Ganache UI is definitely popular for a number of reasons, but it's just nice, or notably because you can just see everything visually, right? This is sort of a theme for us, right? But with Ganache UI, you're once again able to see your transactions, your contract state, events that have fired, all these things on that local DevNet in a graphical way that I know a lot of people are very fond of, especially if you're just starting out, right? It makes things very visual. So very nice there. But so what's kind of upcoming on that front? Two notable open source updates. And I know David's also going to elaborate on this too. So I'll let him go deeper on this. But Node 20 is coming out. So we're going to be updating for that as well. And then flavors. So as Emily mentioned, a little bit of multi-chain stuff going on. Flavors are a way to actually add support for other chains to Ganache. So currently, Ganache supports Ethereum. It can be configured to function like other EVM compatible chains, right? But sometimes there are more specific configurations or things that it'd just be more convenient if you could have that configuration, in a packaged form, so you weren't having to do it yourself. Flavors allow that to happen, right? And then finally, two other things that we're working on that are sort of new territory for Ganache are simulation as a service and DevNet as a service. So these are definitely in the exploratory stages. So I don't have a lot of detail I can share at this point, but just to sort of talk about these briefly and define exactly what they are. Simulation as a service I've also called it momentary simulation before. This is something you might be used to from Tenderly or from other platforms like that, where you're firing off one transaction with some very specific parameters, or perhaps a batch. But point being that those transactions are this isolated thing that you are sending to be simulated, and then viewing and analyzing those results. Whereas DevNet as a service really takes more of like the familiar Ganache experience, like I kept saying, local DevNet, and puts that on a server so that it's easier to share. So that's that local part kind of goes away, and it's much easier for your team to share in all those benefits of having that Ganache DevNet that I had already mentioned, right? That mass state patching, the account impersonation, all of those things. So really great just to have an environment, right? Like let's say, give a concrete example. Your team can have a forked mainnet environment that has some special setup, and then it's easy to set up and tear down this environment. And obviously, you're not actually touching mainnet, but you get all of these benefits in this like very no consequences type of environment that's really great for testing, even before going to an actual live test net. And then speaking of live test nets, right, if you've been using them lately, or at least in the past few months, right, there were a lot of like issues getting even like girly ETH and things like that. You get to sidestep those problems entirely by using something like a hosted DevNet. So a number of uses there. Like I said, I'll let David elaborate on that a little bit more. So before we get to the fun stuff, I will mention that, there's going to be, I'll paste some links into the chat that you can use to contact us. We're spinning up a Canny board right now as well. I don't know if you're familiar with that. That allows you to actually propose and upvote certain features and give feedback on our products more easily. So that's really cool. But I'll put my contact info, including will be daring. I'll just put my raw Calendly link actually in the chat, so you can feel free to schedule time with me and anyone who's in the chat right now. Actually, I'll be in there chatting around once I step off stage here. So without further ado, I will pass it over to, if I'm sure, I really want to look at the run of show because I actually don't know if Kevin or Nick is next, but I'm going to pass it over to one of them and just admit that I don't know.
Yeah, no problem. I will hop back on because I'm the one who knows. But thank you so much for that, Josh. That's really exciting. Definitely post all of your personal information in the chat.
Of
Sounds
course.
like a good idea. Let me know if you want to blast it on Twitter as well. There's always open
Will
to
do.
that. But okay, so let's dive into like actually seeing what all of this looks like. Goodbye. We will bring on Kevin. So let me move your
Hello. Can you
screen
hear me?
share.
Okay.
Yes, I can hear you. Hi,
Awesome.
Kevin. Okay, so
Hey,
you're
Emily.
here to talk to us about some super secret stuff that you've been working on. I don't know if you want to share your screen or you want to give a
I'm
intro.
about to. Yeah.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah. No, for
So
sure.
I'll let you
Can you
do that.
guys?
I
you
need
see
to
that?
show it up. Is it this
Oh,
one?
okay.
The one with your face on it.
Yep. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Cool. You can see that and hear me?
Yes,
Okay.
I can see it. So I'll
Awesome.
go hide
Awesome.
myself so I don't get distracting again.
Perfect. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. Well, thanks, Emily. Thanks, Josh. I don't know about super secret, but because it's been out a little bit, this thing that I'm about to walk through, or at least a few weeks. And yeah, quickly, what I'm going to be walking through is building on what Josh said in regards to dashboards, but specifically a new plugin that we've just launched, or recently launched for Hard Hat. So it brings all that functionality to your Hard Hat projects. Cool. Yeah. I mean, a good amount of this has been covered already, so I'll kind of be careful not to, kind of overdo it in terms of explaining dashboard and so on. And also, Nick is going to be showing some of the new stuff as well, which will obviously be, when that's ready, will be available in Hard Hat by definition of this or by virtue of this plugin. Cool. So it's going to be short. Makes it look like it's going to be quite a lot here, but I'll just quickly kind of give the 10,000 foot view of dashboard, although we already know it. And then the plugin, and then spend a moment just on how you install it and get it set up. Again, that'll be quick. And then also a very quick demo of it. And then lastly, how you can get started with it if you want to try it out yourself. Cool. So yeah, 10,000 foot view. This already got mentioned pretty much, like, plenty of depth, I think. But yeah, what is dashboards? As Josh mentioned, it started out as a tool primarily to mitigate the need to have your private keys floating around, and it allowed you to sign any transactions, be those deployments or just other types of interactions with contracts with MetaMask. So that was kind of feature one, and then since then it's starting to evolve pretty rapidly. And again, Nick will be showing some of the upcoming stuff shortly. What the plugin does specifically, or the Hard Hat plugin does, is brings all that to your Hard Hat projects, as I just mentioned. Side note, you could use it without this plugin, but it would lack certain things, some of the decoding and so on. And I've actually got a little before and after. So if you did run the dashboard service in the context of your Hard Hat project or try to use dashboard, it'll be lacking certain stuff. So this plugin kind of fills those gaps, and it gives us that hook as well to if there's any other things we need in the future to make Hard Hat maintain kind of full compatibility with Hard Hat projects, then obviously that will be baked into this plugin as dashboard itself evolves. And yeah, just from a sort of semi-technical perspective, it actually hooks into the compilation step within Hard Hat and grabs the build info that gets generated as part of that step and then sends it over to the dashboard service. So you get all this kind of richness that you can see down there. Cool. Installation and setup, really, really easy. Install is you just add it as a dev dependency to your projects by npm, yarn, whatever. And then it's just a single line that you add to your Hard Hat config. You can see that there, just an import of the plugin itself. And really that's it. There is a fair amount of ability to override, defaults, within there's some additional config that you can provide if you wanted to. I won't go into that just now, but just FYI, that's there. But in terms of kind of vanilla setup, that's all you need to do, or installation and setup. And then at this point, and I'll demo this in a moment, then at that point, when you do a compilation or just a deploy, which behind the scenes does a compilation first, you can see a little bit of additional output being logged there, wherein it says preparing the compilation, sending it to dashboard, and then then it would carry on as it were just doing a normal compilation, of course. Oh, sorry, the other way around. Does the compilation first and then sends it to the dashboard. Cool. And then you get this, but I'll gloss over this one because we're going to see it in action in a moment. And yeah, quick demo, and it is really quick, maybe the quickest demo ever, possibly. So with that, I'll switch over to VS Code. It really is just kind of playing back, in a sense, what we just saw. And yeah, installation, add it as a dev dependency, add this line to your hard hat config, and then that is all you need. And then at this point, as I just showed in the screenshots, you can, in this case, I'm using the hard hat deploy plugin. You can specify, and it actually lights up. One thing I didn't mention is it lights up this special type of network called Truffle dashboard for you. So you just append that onto the end of your deployment command, or as an additional flag or argument. And then, assuming the demo gods are playing nicely, you see the output. And if I jump over to dashboard, oops, I had one where I was just testing out beforehand. I think this is the one. Let me just do that again, just so we can see it. If I cancel out, it doesn't handle that gracefully right now, but just because I rejected it. And then here we go. So there you go. So I just reran that deployment step, and then you can see here. And one thing I didn't mention is this is just a super simple or simple-ish hard hat project. In this case, I'm deploying my token, and you can see here the decoded parameters and raw parameters as well, which is really nice. So you get both visibility of what's being sent from a transaction perspective, and then, as mentioned earlier, the ability to sign that deployment transaction with MetaMask. So the keys are in your hot wallet, much more safe than they would be if they were just floating around in your projects. Now I'll go ahead and reject that. So that's just the one feature. As mentioned, there is a lot more coming in the works. Let me just jump back to the slides. Oh, yeah. And then just to close out my section, just on how you can try it out and get started with it. We have really good detail in the README. We have some decent stuff in our docs as well, which actually ironically don't have the link to the docs there. I just have a link to the READMEs, both on the NPM equivalent page above, and then the actual README itself. If you go to trufflesuite.com and just search dashboard plugin or something to that effect, you'll see some of the docs. We have a sort of subset of the docs in there, and then there's actually more detail in the README right now in terms of kind of custom configuration and so on. And I think that is it from my side. So this was a quick one. So with that, I think this time it's over to Nick now. Let me stop sharing.
Yes, it is. Wow, you guys should just run this on. I don't even need to be here.
Sorry, back to you, Emily.
Yeah,
I'm trying not to get
no,
ahead of
it's
myself.
fine. My middle name is Nick, so you're actually talking about me, I think, right? No, okay, cool. That is very cool. I linked the documentation in the chat, but I think I will send that out afterwards in a recap email. But anyways, thank you so much, Kevin. I'm going to kick you off.
Thank you, Emily. Thanks, everyone.
And then Nick, I think you're gonna come on and make it even cooler, right? Also in light mode.
I hope so. Do you do dark mode in demos? That
magenta. I used to do light mode because I actually prefer light mode, but then I feel like I lost credibility with hardcore devs, so I just used dark mode.
Some of us like the sun.
Yeah, I know, right? Jeez, touch grass. Stop coding.
Anyway, so I've got Truffle dashboard running. Yeah, note that you're gonna have to run Truffle dashboard one way or another. You can also do npx Truffle dashboard, but that's separate from the plugin installation. But I have a hard hat project right here from what Kevin just showed. Here's my hard hat config. It's just the default config, except I added the import Truffle dashboard hard hat plugin. And I won't bore you with the details. I'm just going to show you how this works. npx hard hat, and we'll do a run, and we'll do scripts deploy, network, Truffle dashboard. And this is what's happening now is it sent all the compilation information over to Truffle Dashboard, and it is now asking Truffle Dashboard, hey, please sign this transaction. We're going to deploy this contract, squarely. Confirm that with MetaMask. And then we have another contract. This is the actual contract we're going to be playing with today. It's a Magic Square. If anyone doesn't know, a Magic Square, it's just my toy project that I use for demos and things like that. Magic Square is like a 3x3 square where all the numbers add up to 15. You can read more. Okay, so that ran. Notice, yeah, if that wasn't clear, you got the context of what was happening as you were signing your transactions. Really what I'm here to demo is this other feature of Truffle Dashboard that's coming soon. And I've got, that contract I just deployed. I'm going to actually generate a Magic Square. And I'm not sure I want to confirm this transaction. I don't want to spend the gas. I don't want to necessarily leak some information or whatever. So let's see what's going to happen. Apparently nothing. Never mind. Here we go. Yeah, so this is our up-and-coming Truffle Dashboard Solidity debugger. You can get into it by hitting this button here. Ooh, that's not supposed to happen. Or you can paste a transaction hash, which I will show in a little bit. But let's play this quick waiting game again real fast. You can see that we can actually step into this contract, and we can see the variables here. They're pretty much all blank to start, but we can jump ahead. We can continue until a breakpoint. Then you see, we're starting to see details. Like here's the Magic Square. It's not yet finished. I'll maybe step over a couple times or continue until breakpoint a couple times. You can see that the details are starting to be filled in. And a warning, yeah, I understand this variables display is not the easiest thing to look at. This is, again, a work in progress. Yeah, you can set breakpoints. You can see where you are in the stack. Let's actually go into that other contract here, the square loop contract, and you can see that there's a stack trace. And this should hopefully give you an idea of what's going to happen with the transaction before you make it. But we also want to handle the case where you maybe want to debug a transaction that already happened. So let's do that. Let's switch over to mainnet. Let's go back here. We don't need this. Let's go to mainnet. And let's find a transaction. We can use this one, or let's do a fresh one. So I'm just going to find a verified contract, something that looks interesting. Frogger, don't know what that is. We'll find something that's not unapproved. What's renounced ownership? Don't know. Let's try it. All right, so maybe you encountered this transaction. You're trying to figure out what happened with it. Well, you can just paste the transaction hash and click debug. And this is going to fetch all the information. It's going to simulate that transaction in Ganache just to get all of this extra development information, namely this debug trace. And then once it finishes generating this trace, hopefully this is not an enormous amount of gas. Cool. Won't take too long to load then. Yeah, we're working on some of this performance because it can be a bit slow to start, but hopefully it's worthwhile if you really need to make sense of something that's going on chain. See, I didn't know anything about this Frogger contract. It's just some mainnet contract, and yet I can now step into it. This is all that's going to happen, but we can kind of see, some of the variables that are defined.
Wait, can I interject? I have a question. Did you just connect your MetaMask to mainnet, or?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
This is mainnet. I grabbed a random mainnet transaction and I started the debugger. And
okay, so I'm a little okay. So I haven't seen this yet.
Oh yeah,
Before the process of starting the debugger and debugging a mainnet transaction, right? Is you have to spin up a Ganache fork of mainnet.
Yeah,
right?
the Truffle dashboard's doing that for you, actually. Like we are, because MetaMask gives you access to Infura's nodes, but Infura doesn't, for economic feasibility reasons, they can't give all of the development information that this debugger needs. Like Truffle debugger needs a lot of information that's very development centric. But Ganache can connect to Infura and recreate all that missing information. So what we're doing is we're running Ganache inside the browser here, and when we ask for a transaction, Ganache will look at that transaction and it'll recreate all the information that Truffle debugger needs, and that allows us to start the debugger here like this. So it's pretty cool.
Okay, cool. That is very cool. Ganache in the browser. A+ use case. I think David's actually going to talk a little bit about that, so stay tuned. But okay,
right. And
that
Truffle
clarifies things, right? Because at first I was like, oh, you connected to mainnet, and then you mentioned something about gas, and then my heart beated for a hot sec. And then I was like, okay, this makes sense. It's okay. Nothing's clarity.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're trying to run as much as we can in the browser, right? Like Truffle debugger itself is running in the browser, so the debugger's not running on any server or anything like that. We're trying to keep it as local as possible.
Okay, cool. And then I guess question, so it's the same process, right? If I switch to like Girly, or Sepolia, Ganache and browser will be just running. And then what about like other EVM, I guess, compatible or equivalent chains?
So
What
your
happens
mileage
with that?
may vary a little bit with that, but it should work. For recent blocks, like I'm not sure which. Like it's possible that MetaMask doesn't give you access to an archive node for all networks, but I believe for most of the networks, if you have access to an archive node, this will work on any transaction, no matter how old it is. If you're trying to debug a recent transaction, then you won't need an archive node, with some caveats. But yeah, typically, if you select one of the networks that MetaMask provides, when Ganache goes to fork that network, it should just work, right? It will go and it'll ask Infura, hey, give me all the information I need. The user is trying to debug something. I need to give him a bunch of very technical information, and that should just work. On Girly, I tried it on Girly last night. It worked. I only picked mainnet because it.
Yeah, it's sexy. Okay. Yeah. That is awesome. Okay, sorry, I'll let you continue. I just wanted to pop in with some questions. But
yeah, so I think I'm probably running out of time in this, and I don't have too much else to show. Hopefully, you can kind of see where this is going. We hope to have this out in a couple weeks.
A couple weeks.
Well, we'll see.
Can I commit you to before July?
Not publicly.
Not publicly. That's true. You guys might want to add like cooler stuff to it before it comes out.
Well,
Damn it. No, that's I get it. It's fine.
Right?
I want to put you on the spot.
Have hover to show the values on hover. That would be awesome, but it would take a lot of time. Like, how do we make those variable displays a little bit nicer? Right?
Yeah.
There's some polished things, but we will be putting out a disk tag release. If anyone wants like early access, just keep an eye on our NPM. Then you can play with it and provide any feedback. I'm sure Josh is conducting, you're conducting interviews with people, and yeah, we're very interested in making sure this is a really nice experience for everyone. Anyway, that's all I got. I should give the floor over to whoever's next. So back to you, Emily.
Yes. Okay. But just if people want to play around with dashboard, not with this extra information again, the process is you need to install Truffle, right? And then if you want to use Hardhat, you install the Hardhat npx. I forget the actual thing, but I think it was just like npx install Truffle dashboard.
It's just npx Truffle dashboard. That'll run Truffle dashboard. So you have that running in one terminal, and then
I meant to install dashboard.
Oh, if you want to install it, yeah, then I would recommend probably doing something like npm. I'm typing into the private.
Yeah, the private chat. No worries.
Emily, please share this once you. Yeah, but it's just npm install -g Truffle, and then that'll give you a global instance of Truffle that you can just run Truffle dashboard anywhere you like.
Okay, cool. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So I will now say goodbye to you. How do I do this? Technical difficulties. I think the last person we want to bring on is David. So David is on our Ganache team. He has some cool stuff with Ganache and browser. I think we wanted to talk about more exploratory stuff with regarding to, simulations, account abstraction, other cool things that, we might touch upon, we might not, but just are excited about. So David, I'll let you lead.
Cool. How do I share screen? There's a button here. Oh, I have so many screens. Let's see. This one. Let me know when that's working.
Let me see. Here we go. Okay, cool. Here's your screen.
All right, cool.
Blurry.
Bigger?
I think it's okay.
We'll just go really big. How's that? Big?
No, it's not. It didn't expand. Strange.
Let's see. Shrink it and grow it. Any help?
Can you try? I don't. This is like dumb. Can you like unshare and reshare?
Yeah, let's try it. I will share just the window. How about that? Or just the let's see. Is the entire screen better or is the window better? Actually,
I always do entire screen, but that's because I have to change windows a lot.
Okay, let's do that. Any better?
No, it's even worse. Wait, is it bad for anyone else or is it just me? Somebody rescue me. It's impossible to read. This is weird. Do you want to hear? Maybe I'm too high quality. If I disable myself.
Low bandwidth. I don't know.
That's fine. We can just move forward with this. Or maybe it's helpful. Okay, let's do this. This will be an exciting experiment. I'm going to share my screen and then you can drive me through the process.
I can also just lower my resolution.
Okay, that works too.
It looks horrible to me, but maybe it'll look better for everyone else. All right, here we go. Let's try this.
It's like slightly better. When you narrowed your screen, it looked better. So maybe if you could make it small, I don't know.
It's actually small on my side.
Oh, really? Damn. Okay. Well, we have two options here. I think it's like good enough as a high level with the blobs, or we could share my screen. I'll let you make the executive decision. I think it's good enough. Let's just move forward.
I mean, I was just going to kind of show that this exists, really.
Okay.
So Ganache.dev is the home to the Ganache CLI and programmatic usage of Ganache, its documentation. So right now it's a bit incomplete. So this is currently the home for our RPC documentation. So these are all of the JSON RPC methods that Ganache supports. And what's kind of special about Ganache.dev isn't that we have documentation. A lot of websites have documentation that just shows you the information about each RPC method and whatever the node supports. But what's really interesting about Ganache is that there are runnable examples where we've injected an EIP 1193 provider into this text box here, and you can run each one and see the results of that run. And so we have examples for every method that Ganache supports. So here's debug storage range at running, getting some storage. I'm not going to try to explain everything that's going on here. And then let's see, debug trace transactions going to be down here. You can see the result there. And what's really cool about this is it actually works if you want to use Ganache's built-in forking. So like const provider equals, I think it's Ganache.provider. So you can instantiate a new version of Ganache like this. And in this case, the results aren't going to be interesting, but this will go and it will fork mainnet, and you'll have a local mainnet copy instantly in the browser. So you could go and we could do like f get balance, and let's like pick a Etherscan account, random address. Let's see what this address has in it. Copied a transaction hash, didn't I? Too long. Just, so no one's confused. This is now get balance. Run that. It's going to fork mainnet. It's going to run out and get the balance of that account, which is saying it's 0, which is maybe it is. Let's see. Do they drain it? It says 63 Ether, but that's on the most recent block, and Ganache forks about 5 blocks back. So we can see if we can get a different balance, or we'll go back further. Let's do a block that is older. Demos. This account, it's got some balance. Show me something else. Does this look right to anyone? Am I like doing something wrong? Forking mainnet, get balance. That's right? Oh, there's a space at the end. Yeah, so when you copy paste from here, it copies a little space character right at the end. I didn't notice. So Ganache probably should have rejected with an error here. So something to note of. So yeah, so we have the balance there. We can actually see what this value is by casting it and seeing how much weight they have. I don't know. Is that big?
No, I was going to ask you to read off how wealthy this person is.
Let's see. How many commas is that divided by 17? Yeah, so you can do a lot with this, and we want to expand this into the realm of tutorials and walkthroughs and all guided, so you can do all of this stuff in a browser. And then these are all VS Code instances essentially. So it's Monaco, the editor that powers VS Code, all embedded in here. And so there's so much power that we aren't yet using that we would like to. Like right now, like the types are not typed, and so we can actually inject Ganache types in here and really make this really powerful. And I think it already is the best in class for RPC documentation, but I also think that it's not good enough, and we can do a lot better. And we have light mode for you, Emily. I made this just for you, actually.
Just for me and Nick, developers who touch grass.
And also importantly is that despite all of these methods and all of these instances of Monaco running here, it's incredibly fast to load. So I'm going to do a hard refresh, and it's just about instant. And you can start searching for stuff just like that. So, and it works without JavaScript enabled, which is one of the reasons why it's so fast. Which is funny. It sounds like not a JavaScript fan when like that's my day job. But if you don't have JavaScript enabled, it loads even faster. And it's still usable other than the runnable examples. You still see the exact same experience other than run button.
Yeah.
So that's
really cool.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, because when I was I remember when I was like developing, I would be like, David, help me. I don't know how to manipulate Ganache to do XYZ. And then you guys would send me like hidden RPC methods that I've never heard of. And then I just like didn't understand how to use it. So this is super helpful. I know also, I think part of us pushing this through was a while back we had a dev at Consensus who built like a transaction simulation snap and utilized Ganache and browser. Am I reciting this correctly from memory?
Yeah. Well, actually, what's funny
Yeah.
is I have so this is after resizing. So this was the Ganache V7 release we did last 2022 of January, and like we made it possible for it to work in the browser. And Micaiah, who worked here at the time, he sent me this Slack message. What's a common use case for Ganache in the browser? I'm like, I don't really know. Like it works, and we're really just hoping that people will make it something. And I think that's happening. It's happening a lot. So Ganache.dev was enabled from this. We putting Ganache inside of MetaMask is now possible. And we actually did a little internal project where we did just that. And then like the snap that you were talking about uses Ganache in the browser. So there's a lot there. And then of course Dashboard, which is just demoed, again, Ganache in the browser. So we can do a lot with it. To do it, you just need to put this in your page and you'll have a Ganache variable ready for you to use. Yeah, so that's Ganache in the browser. If we have time to talk about other cool things, it'd be cool to get
go
everybody.
for it. We have time. So you tell me what is cool, and I'll ask you some questions about it.
Yeah, can we get more people on? Does that work?
Yeah. Okay, cool. We can bring it. I know you had mentioned something about like we had the Shanghai upgrade happen recently. Ganache is all good on that end.
Yeah, Ganache and Truffle, they support Shanghai. So there's some interesting upgrades in there that affect app developers, other than just enabling withdrawals, which is a huge deal. So you'll have to use like newer versions of Solidity, but you get like a new opcode, push 0, which is a surprising. So usually in your Solidity, whenever you want to use the value 0, that value is pushed onto the stack with push 1, and that's actually costs quite a bit of gas because 0 is used so much. So push 0 just is like a cheaper version of it, and it can save a significant amount of gas. Yeah, so we support that, which is nice. Node 20 support is coming, but before that is the flavor stuff, which is Josh talked about earlier. Yeah, so I don't know, what do we want to talk about?
I do want you to expand on the flavors thing.
The flavors thing? Okay, so yeah, Josh mentioned flavors. So what that will do, and we have one flavor now for Filecoin. And Filecoin, it starts up IPFS and Filecoin. And so ideally what we would be able to do with flavors is have an IPFS flavor and a Filecoin flavor, but Filecoin depends on IPFS. And all of these could be started by a single Ganache command. So you'd be able to have essentially like your own dev ecosystem started up with a single command. So like Ganache -- environment, and then however you describe your environment. So right now you'd have to do them separately, and it's only the two, Filecoin and Ethereum. But this plugin, this flavors work, which flavors is just our kind of on-brand name for a Ganache plugin, where the plugins are actually entire chains that are orchestrated by Ganache. They pave the way for some really cool stuff, and just making it the developer experience for this kind of crazy ecosystem that you have to deal with when you're developing dApps now a little bit easier. Anyone comments on flavors?
No, I mean, that's the most exciting thing I love about, I think, Ganache. I mean, especially since I've switched on to Linea, or picked up. I think that was a little bit of the kind of reason I wanted to do a bit of both is because just Truffle, Ganache, I think even like thinking about these things so early on um, is a real signal that I think like we have forward thinking, like L2s are the future. Like the goal is like, my thesis, right? Nothing really is going to happen on mainnet anymore. And if that's the case, like the tooling needs to catch up and support that kind of environment and what that looks like.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's
So
really cool though, right? Like, so if you're building a like fully Web3 application, right? Like you want your front end deployed on IPFS, you want and you want to use Linea or another L2, and you have some mainnet contracts, right? It'd be really convenient to just run a single Ganache command, get your mainnet like network, your Linea like network, and your IPFS network, all local, so that you can do your development. And then when you go to deploy for real, either onto a public test net to start, or ultimately onto the main nets, right? Then your environment matches exactly, right? So that's a really nice flow, right? Don't have to keep 3 separate terminals for 3 separate networks running, and yeah.
And then debug it, right?
Oh yeah, well of course, right? And
though I think we need debug trace transaction for an L2 to work correctly.
Right, but Ganache can make debug trace transaction out of thin air.
Provided
well, I mean, out of thin air, right? Like it's
yeah.
just going to do a bunch of storage requests behind the
Yeah.
scenes, right? It's going to be like, hey, Linea node. Is it Linea, not Linea?
It's Linea, but we're purposely not explicit about it to be like, oh, make it your own. Who knows? Mysterious. But the team calls it Linea.
All right, well, I'll try and switch that in my head. What was I saying? Oh, yeah. So like connecting to a Linea node, Ganache could make debug trace transactions. It's just going to have to do a bunch of eth get storage at requests behind the scenes, right? And then Ganache will provide debug trace transaction for our debugger or other use cases, even though the underlying node, right? Debug trace transaction.
That's insane. What? Okay, cool. Amazing. That's great to hear. This is my personal question. So I know we're really pushing on hard hat support. When Foundry?
When Foundry's output format's just like so much more complicated. I mean, it's not too bad, but I mean, hard hat really made it easy for us because their build info directory has like individual files that correspond one-to-one with Truffle's internal format. So it's very easy for us to convert from hard hat's internal format over to Truffle's internal format. And that's how we got this compatibility very, very, readily. With Foundry, it's just a lot more slice and dicing, right? Like we got to pull stuff from one file and cross-reference it with another file. And none of us on the team are Foundry experts. So we're still kind of figuring out the makings of their format to build that compatibility layer. Expect to see. So we have an @truffle from hard hat, like internal package. That's the package that provides the hard hat compatibility. And so we hope to soon have an @truffle from Foundry package that would basically just do the same thing, right?
Okay, very cool. Glad to hear that's coming up eventually. But yeah, definitely, I think what the most common, if we want to target the biggest audience, it'll be hard hat. And I'm really excited that we're moving towards this modular kind of approach that Josh had mentioned.
Yeah, I'm really excited about the hard hat support, right? Because you get the internals, right? You get their console.sol. And I do think it'll be really cool to have the Foundry support because Foundry just has that huge standard library of Solidity contracts. I'd love to have our debuggers step through the internals of Foundry like that. I am quite excited about that.
Yeah.
Have we actually talked about how Truffle supports console.sol on a community call yet?
Truffle supports
we
console.sol.
did, but we could
was that just Ganache?
Oh, no, I think I touched on it briefly, but we can always say it again. Someone wants to. Yeah, hard hat's console.sol.
Well, Ganache
or no, Truffles. Oh, sorry. Yeah, no. You mean our own in-house in-baked truffle, where now it shows up in the actual like truffle test flow and like in the development flow. That one you mean? Yes.
Yeah. So like Truffle also has the hard hats console soul
Right.
support
Yes.
built in without hard hat, like on its own. And then
Yeah. I think we might have mentioned it before. I did give a presentation on it at Denver, I believe. So maybe I'll dig up that recording. I'll just re-record it to remind everyone it's there. Yeah. Okay. Another list item to do on my never-ending list of tasks. But
so I'm interested in what end users want from dev tooling as far as account abstraction goes. Like that's kind of like the hot new thing. And like I don't know. I don't know what they want. And be great to hear feedback. So we have like Discord place to talk about stuff, and then we also have GitHub discussions, and it'd be great to see some of that from end users. But ideas I have are to try to bake in a lot of the account abstraction like requirements. So like the contracts, like have an option in Ganache and in Truffle to like start Ganache with all of that necessary stuff in the background. But I don't know if that's useful, like or not. So it'd be great to see what users would want. I don't know if you guys have.
Now let's start a thread on that. I know, like internally, definitely MetaMask has okay, I can't say anything about MetaMask. I don't work on the MetaMask team, so I'm not going to say that. But I know the guys on the MetaMask team often host like account abstraction events as side meetups and stuff. So I think definitely that's probably a good avenue to get some people with feedback and builders in that sense. So I will file that away and then ping the relevant people. But yeah, we are at time. We're actually over time. So thank you guys for joining. I'm sorry that this is all over the place with all the technical difficulties, but we'll try to do a more streamlined, polished, written something. Yeah.
It's great. We like the coolest features we hide behind all these technical difficulties. So it's like
Yeah,
Work for it.
No. Okay. Awesome. Cool. Thank you so much. I'm going to, if you guys have questions about stuff, definitely like leave comments on the YouTube like video. I hope you guys know how to do that. I don't want to give instructions. But yeah, have a great Friday, everyone. Unless you're in Asia, then it is 1:09 a.m. Have a good Saturday morning. Okay.
thanks,
Cool.
Emily.
See ya.
Thanks, Emily. Thanks, all.
Bye.
Thanks,
Thanks.
Emily.